Hi there, Smart Driver, talking to you about skills, techniques, and information you need to pass your driver's test first time. Skills, what you need to be successful on passing your driver's test. And as I said, every test is different, every examiner is different, the traffic is different, the signs are different. So be sure to practice in and around the test center where you're going to be taking your test to be fully prepared. And your best, absolutely best, and only source of information for being successful in passing your driver's test is the driving instructors who work in and around the test center and teach people how to pass a driver's test every day. They have the information that you need. They will teach you the skills that you need to be successful on your driver's test. And you can book a number of lessons. I know that these are now getting expensive. I don't know, maybe somebody here on the live stream or somebody on the replay can give us some information about what the cost of driving lessons are now. I don't know. It's probably up about $100 an hour, $120 an hour now in some places in terms of everything going up with inflation. Must-see videos for passing your driver's test, and there is a playlist here. Corey will put those up for you, the must-see videos. Surprising test fails, automatic fails, and top 10 most common mistakes on a driver's test. And I will tell you right now, if you are not taking driver training with a driving instructor, the number one mistake on a driver's test is not shoulder checking. Shoulder check. And I've had people say to me, you know, shoulder checking is overrated. I wrote back to them and I said, bad drivers are underrated, unfortunately. And then they responded back saying that their friend had shoulder checked for 3 seconds. If you're shoulder checking for 3 seconds, you're not doing it correctly. And Corey will put up the video on how to shoulder check correctly. It's just a quick turn of the head in the direction in which you're moving the vehicle. And you have to shoulder check everywhere, not just when you're changing lanes, but also when you're turning. Anytime that you change direction of the vehicle or you're moving it sideways, shoulder check, shoulder check. And people will come back to me and they will say, well, I have blind spot detectors and convex mirrors, proximity sensors, backup cameras. I don't need to shoulder check. Yes, you do. All those observation technologies are just a backup to good driving skills. Backup. Where's the backup? My favorite line from Serenity, one of my favorite movies of all time. Where's the backup?
We're fried. I got no control. Where's the backup?
And if you think that, you know, you're not going to get into trouble, because most people when they're driving only crash once every 15 to 17 years. It's a very long period of time between crashes, and you could go along for a very extended period of time thinking that what you're doing is okay. One day it'll catch up to you. So always have a backup. Shoulder check, shoulder check. The fundamentals, social driving. You cannot drive the way other people drive on the roadway and pass your driver's test. First and foremost, the biggest hallmark of social driving is people follow too close. They stop in traffic too close. For the duration of a driver's test, you need to follow at 2 to 3 seconds. Not 2 to 3 car lengths, 2 to 3 seconds. So the vehicle in front of you goes past a fixed object, a sign, a tree, whatnot, and you start counting 1001, 1002, 1003. We measure in time because speed is relative, and therefore the faster you go, the bigger that space gets. And this is why we measure in time. It's not vehicle lengths, it's not an extra vehicle length for every 10 miles per hour. I love that one. That's my favorite one. I feel like I need to get out my calculator. It's like train A leaves station B at 6 p.m. Train C leaves station D at 7:04 p.m. When do the two trains meet? It's like, my God, some of the antiquated methods we have in driver education when we're trying to teach people stuff. It's the same thing with signaling, with shoulder checking. People come back to me and say things and I'm like, why are you making it so complicated? It's not complicated. 2 to 3 second following distance, stopping back in traffic 1 vehicle length. Your landmark for that is being able to see the tires of the vehicle in front making clear contact with the pavement. That's what you need to do. Space management, speed management, observation, and communication. Those are the 4 tools that you need to put in place, not only the skills to pass your driver's test, but also best practices for defensive driving. Traffic signs. Look at the traffic signs and glean the information off traffic signs. And next week, we'll talk about traffic signs to help you out, not only to be successful on passing your driver's test, but also to put in place best defensive driving practices. Space management, stopping position at intersections and in traffic, two-way stop signs, stopping before the stop line, stopping before the crosswalk or sidewalk. If those two conditions don't exist, then stopping at the edge of the intersection. As I said, 2 to 3 second following distance, 3 feet, 1 meter minimum from pedestrians and other vulnerable road users. And if you are traveling faster than 30 miles an hour, 50 kilometers an hour, you want even more space between your vehicle and vulnerable road users, pedestrians, and those types of things. And if you can't get around them, you're on a 2-lane skinny suburban road and there's pedestrians walking along the road, then simply stop, wait for the other vehicle to clear, and then create the space to go around. And make sure that you signal left to go into the other lane, and then signal right to come back into your lane when you're passing pedestrians on the roadway. This is one of the errors of new drivers. They do not understand the hazard and danger of being near vulnerable road users. And I come back to intersections. More than 40% of crashes happen in intersections. Intersections are where you are most likely to encounter vulnerable road users who are crossing your path of travel. 25%, 1/4, 1 in 4 crashes, 1 in 4 fatal crashes involves pedestrians. Know that for keeping yourself safe and keeping other people safe on the roadway. Speed management. For the purposes of a driver's test, you must, capital letters, MUST, the posted speed limit, and under the umbrella of social driving, most people on posted speed limit. So know that you are going to be the slowest vehicle on the roadway. Therefore, know that you need to drive in the right-hand lane so that other vehicles can pass when you're driving along multi-lane roadways and whatnot. When can you drive slower? You can drive slower in high pedestrian areas. For example, you're going past a mall, the roadways are skinny. If you're in a suburban area and there's cars parked on both sides and it's really tight getting through there, then you can drive slower. If you school speed zones, make sure that in a school zone, if you can go a couple of miles an hour underneath the posted speed limit or a couple of kilometers an hour less, because it's an automatic fail if you speed in a school zone on a driver's test. Automatic fail. So those are the places that you can drive slower. Observation, scanning patterns, far down the road, left mirror, wing mirror, side mirror, that's what I was looking for. I said wing mirror once before and somebody's like, what's a wing mirror? What's a wing mirror? What that? What's a wing mirror? What that? What that? Is it like Top Gun? Like, no, it's a side mirror because people don't understand what a wing mirror is. The other side mirror, far down the road, that's your forward scanning pattern. Shoulder checking. Every time that you change directions of the vehicle, you need to shoulder check. Changing lanes and merging, turning, and then the last one is going to be signaling and communication. The position and speed of your vehicle communicates intent, and it is the number one way that traffic communicates with you. And I mentioned this last week in the live stream that I was following a vehicle on the roadway. We were coming up to an intersection, and as the car moved to the right, they came to the intersection and they turned right. And I wasn't surprised that they had turned right because the position of their vehicle and the slowing down, the speed change indicated to me that that was what they were going to do. So it was not a big surprise. The other ways we communicate, lights and signals, the horn, eye contact, and hand gestures. And usually eye contact and hand gestures will go together. Okay, they will work in tandem. So for example, there's a cyclist at the intersection, you're not sure what they're doing, you slow down, you get eye contact with the cyclist, and then you wave them on for them to proceed through the intersection. Your job on a driver's test, take away the driving examiner's right to fail you. Nothing less, nothing more, okay? Demonstrate that you have due care and control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. That's what you have to do to be successful on passing your driver's test first time. Practice road tests. As I said, if you're not taking driver training with an instructor, book a practice road test, okay? Call up the driving school, listen, say, I want to go out for an hour and a half. I want you to check my skills. In preparation for my driver's test, I'm going to be taking my driving test on such and such a day. Do that 3 weeks out because they're usually busy and you need to get booked in. Book your practice driving test a week before your driving test. That way, whatever feedback the instructor gives you, you have time to practice those skills and abilities in preparation for taking your driver's test. The return on investment of hiring a driving instructor before going down for your driving test is huge. You don't want to have to rebuild your confidence. You don't have to find the time to take your driver's test again and then to book a time to take your driver's test because we're coming into the busiest time of the year, which is Summertime, okay? It's busy, driving examiners are stressed, there's a lot going on, there's more traffic, those types of things. So you got to have a little bit of planning on this. I know that not everybody does, but you need a little bit of planning to be successful on passing your driver's test. And in addition to that, as it says down there at the bottom, what I said to you before is that driving instructors teach people how to pass a driver's test every day. That's what they're going to do. They're going to assess your ability. They're going to give you feedback on your ability. They're going to take you on the test route, and they're going to show you where the driving examiner will take you to do the slow speed maneuvers for the purposes of your test. When I was working at ICBC some years ago, they sent me out with the driving examiners to go on a test route. And of course, the driving examiners are saying to me, oh, we do this and we do that and we do this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't say this to them at the time that I was working there. I didn't say, oh, I know that, because driving instructor's job is to know the job of the driving examiner. It's our job we have to know that, to teach that to the students so we can teach you how to pass a driver's test. Good luck in your driver's test. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. And say to yourself, I can do this, I will do this. As Paul said, the four most powerful words in the English language. I can do this. As Paul said, don't freak out. And if you're not successful in your driver's test, you just take another driver's test. The best advice I got about life was somebody said to me, if you make a decision and things don't work out, I made the decision to go and take my driver's test. It didn't work out. You failed your driver's test. Just make another decision. Okay, I'm going to make another decision. I'm going to go in, I'm going to book another driver's test, and I'm going to take another test. You got to go through life like that. If the decision that you make doesn't work out, then make another decision. Okay, I bought a house, I can't afford it now. Okay, I make the decision that I'm going to have to sell it. So just make another decision and life will move forward. 6625, I passed my test in August 18, 2024 and finally did it. That is awesome, my friend. How has the driving been going in the last couple of years? How are you loving the license and the freedom of driving? Excellent. Excellent. 85, yes, Greg's driving school is always booked. The driving schools are always booked, so be sure that you book a driving lesson. Make sure that you book a driving lesson well in advance, 3 weeks, a month in advance, and then that way you can get in and get the information and the education that you need before going down for your driver's license test. A monkey on my test, if I am to back into a parking spot and there is an empty space next to me, is it bad if I go into the spot next to it? A little if I fix myself by the end. A monkey, when you back up into a parking spot so your reverse stall parking, it's called technically, reverse stall parking, which is basically backing into a parking space, you're allowed one pull-up. If you're in between the lines and you're more or less in the space, just leave it alone because you're nervous, you're under pressure, just get it into the space, okay? Don't fiddle around with it because sometimes you make it worse than if you just leave it alone when backing into a space. Most cameras now, most people who are going to be taking a driving test, you're going to have a backup camera. And this is a good point for the driver's test. You can use a backup camera for the purposes of your driver's test. You just can't use it as your primary line of sight. You still have to look over the seats in through the back window, okay? You can glance at your mirrors, but you can't use them as your primary line of sight for the purposes of a driver's test. And if you have a car with a backup camera, it's much, much easier backing into a parking spot than if you don't have a backup camera. I will tell you that for now, because it's got those lines on the camera and you just put them between the two lines and it is super easy to back up. The other point about that is backing into a parking spot. Oftentimes at the driving test center, there will be a concrete barrier back there. There will be a fence, other things back there. If you strike those on a driver's test, you will not be successful. The technical term, striking a fixed object, that is an automatic fail on a driver's test. So know that it's better to stay out a little bit, get a couple of points than it is to back up too far and fail your driving test outright. All right, then we'll leave it there for tonight. If you have any questions, concerns, want information about passing a driver's test, leave a comment down in the comment section. I try and check those most day. We'll help you out, okay? And we're gonna leave Marion now with her fur baby on a play date, driving through a traffic calming device. Have a great night, everybody. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. All the best. Bye now.